Okay, what we have here is lower ball joint, smooth tie rod end, and sway link. A few tips with the ball joint. This fitting is a little soft, so the Zerk fitting is a little soft, so you have to be careful threading it in. You don't want to over tighten it, or you'll be replacing that. Okay, we're going to put a little WD-40 on this nut before we try to break it loose. The trick is to go ahead and break it loose before you take the wheel off, before you take any pressure off the wheel, or you won't have any pressure to turn against. Yeah, break them loose. And now we're going to take the tie rod end out. Because we're taking the sway links out, and we've only got one side jacked up. There's the torsion bar has pressure on it, so we're using the jack to pick up the lower, or on the stabilizer bar, to pick up the control arm. So we're taking some of the pressure off this while we take the bolts out of the sway link.
Okay.
Because we were using a driver on it, we couldn't put the Allen wrench in the bottom. And since we're just getting rid of these and throwing them away, all we did was just clamp some channel locks on the end, or vice grips, sorry, on the end, and just drove these out with the driver. Now, of course, if you were wanting to keep them, reuse them, you're going to need to use a flat wrench or something, and put the Allen wrench in the end of it. Alright, because our ball joint separator, our fork, was not thick enough, it was bottoming out on the bracket, we put an open-end wrench. We drove it in once, pulled it back out, put an open-end wrench in, and then drove it in again for a spacer, and just used this hammer to hammer it in, and finally broke it loose that way. Large 1/8 inch, 1 1/8 inch open end, and then our pickle fork, ball joint pickle fork. Try this 3/4. Still not? Yeah, but this side's usually a little tighter. Yeah, it's enough to, you're putting a torque on it from that end.
You should really try loosening the other side first, but that's up to y'all.
I can't do it, it's not deep enough. This one's talking deep enough.
18, I don't have a deep enough, 18, I think.
You don't have a impact?
No, they're all English.
Mm.
We used the English one yesterday.
It's okay, it's coming. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Because this is probably not the best way of going about doing this, but it's the best way we found. Because we're not replacing the upper control arm, we didn't want to use a pickle fork on the upper ball joint because it tends to destroy the boot. So what we did is we took a jack, we took something, a longer bar, and we put the bar up under here, giving pressure on the upward pressure on the upper control arm, and we used the jack to put pressure on it. While we were doing that, Once we put pressure on it, we put another bar and hammered it into, and these are pry bars right here. So we used a pry bar, we hammered it into the split in the back to open it up, and then while we were hammering that in, we also took a hammer to this bracket right here, and that's the part with the disc and everything on it, and hammered it down. The combination of those three things are what actually finally broke it loose.
Tie it up. Like with the wire.
First we're going to tie it up with some wire.
With those pliers. Diamond pliers.
You got pliers you need?
The blue handled windings. I guess that's what those are. I mean, just tap it until it moves free. It's moving free.
Okay.
So, once it's free, you push it all the way to the side right here. Yeah, it's great. Come from Alright, wire me up before I snap that.
Now we have a snap ring here that goes on top of the ball joint once it's pressed in. But the only thing is it's slightly out of spec. These, I believe they're called Mevo Tech ball joints. They're not quite enough of the ball joint sticking out to get the snap ring on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a grinder and we're going to take off, just shave off just enough on that bottom of the control arm, so we've got enough space in here, enough of the ball joint sticking out the top once it's pressed in, that we'll be able to get the snap ring off.
Yep.
Alright, so what we've done here is we've got the ball joint and we're just going to take the boot off before we press it in so we can get a little better fit. We just put this cup on here, and this set right here that we're using to press out the ball joint, we use to press out the ball joint, press the oven back in. We got from Advanced Auto. It's just a rental kit that you can borrow from them. But anyways, get back on there.
So turn the right way.
Also, hold on a second. Before we checked everything, we put the Zerk or grease fitting in and found out where we wanted it pointing. I want mine pointing out the front of the vehicle to make sure we had the ball joint pointing in the right direction before we press it in. Otherwise, it'll be pointing towards the wheel and you'll have to take it back out. Breaker bar. Moving. What we're doing now is we've got a jack up under here, and we're jacking up the lower control arm, and then we've inserted the upper control arm back into this, and we are going to hammer this down until we get it flush. Now also, when we put the brake rotor and mount back on, we put the spindle from the shaft, the drive shaft, in it while we put it on the bottom, the lower ball joint. So it's kind of both things at one time. Put it on the bottom ball joint, and then guided the drive shaft into it, put it up, bolted down the ball joint. We haven't tightened it down, torqued it down or anything. Now we're trying to get the top in, and once we get the top in, then we will torque everything down on the bottom.
tighten it up, and then you move it back and forth, and you'll pop on there. I need the 15/16 in that Allen.
Nut.
I'm gonna call that one torque down.
All right.
And go in your pattern.
And what we use for the lower ball joint, what we use for the lower ball joint, 15/16 open end and boxed in wrench, and we also use this. I believe it's an 8mm. Let me double check that. Yeah, 8mm Allen wrench driver in the bottom of the ball joint, and torque them down with that.
Tie her up.
This angle is. Break it loose.
Yeah. See, now it turns free right there. Actually, they both turn odd. Yeah. Okay. I don't have to have that on the end.
What size wrenches were those?
7/8 and 13/16. Bring me a new one. The new rod end.
Alright, hold on a second. Alright, so what we use to break that one loose, 7/8 and 13/16.
You may need to
We
have
broke it loose from the nut, and then we're backing out the tie rod right now.
And you may need a 1/2 inch up the top to hold it.
And you need a 1/2 inch up the top to hold it in place. Tie rod back in, and then snugged it down with a 13/16 and a
7/8.
and a 7/8. Now we're just going to put the tie rod back in and snug it down. What we do is we just torque down this castle nut with a 13/16, put the cotter pin in, and then we took an 8mm, or actually a 7mm driver, little driver. And of course you could use a open end, boxed in wrench for it. And because the angle was sitting out, we put our secondary jack underneath it to raise it up so we get a better angle so we can get this on there. But if you had a 7mm open end wrench, it would go a lot smoother. You wouldn't have to use the other jack. Yep. We've already put our Zerk grease fittings in on the sway link. So now we're just going to, and we've already compressed the control arm and brought it up a little bit, so we aren't putting too much pressure on it with our secondary jack, and that way this should just fit in. We're going to bolt it down right quick. Recording. Alright, what we've done, put the wheel back on. Went and checked everything, made sure it was all torqued down. Put the wheel back on, lug nuts, dropped it down, torqued them down. The wheel's ready to go. Now we are going to torque down the drive shaft retainer nut, and we should be good to go. All we have to do now is grease.